Our viewers on MotoGP is back. MotoGP 23 is here. I've had the opportunity to test a demo of the game. I'll share some thoughts along with some of the content that's going to be in the full game. Of course, the game will include the MotoGP, Moto2 and Moto3 and Moto E categories. But on the gameplay I've seen so far, I've only had the chance to test out the MotoGP bikes. Now, the game has developments to various aspects, such as the career mode. I haven't been into this in too much detail, but you constructed the career mode more to your own liking now, and there is lots and lots to do in there. As ever, Milestone always produce massive career modes, lots for you to enjoy. There's also weather in the game now, and dynamic weather, and flag to flag. And so you can pit your bike in the game and change onto those all important tyres. Interesting to see how that comes together, and obviously the time it takes to pit and whether you stay out there in tippy-toe round is hard enough to do at the best of times. And of course you've got cross-play. Cross-play is essential now to any new racing game or any new video game if it wants to maintain a big online audience. So we've got all of that as well, and you've got the new neural aid system and MotoGP Academy. I'll come back to that later. Right, MotoGP then. So first hands-on, first impressions, what are we thinking? Graphics are very impressive. The actual riders and the bikes, really nice textures and effects, nice animations. The animations to getting on your bike and your rider there in the pits all looks fantastic. Always impressive, as well as your rider when he actually finishes the race, ends up on the podium. Really nice animation throughout. So the bikes are looking fantastic. The tracks are looking good. Some of the lighting could be better here and there, but as ever, it improves all the time. I still think the bikes look a lot better than the surroundings in terms of the detail. They really have worked on it hard. The details on the modern bikes, it never ceases to amaze the amount of technology that's going into MotoGP these days. The bikes are looking very unusual in terms of the way they're controlling airflow, and they have the various ride height system these days. They really have moved on a lot. But let's talk a bit about the gameplay. MotoGP over the past few years has been, in my eyes, notoriously difficult to play. It's gone from being a game that I felt was quite approachable maybe 8 years ago to a game these days that is almost exclusively designed around the esport player and the feedback of some players who want this perception of an ultimate realistic challenge. Certainly when you play MotoGP at the moment, and I point this out, that the rider animation and everything to do with the bike physics can change between now and launch, but I can only discuss what I've tested so far. So in terms of the rider and getting used to it, you need to steer the rider rather than the bike, and it's getting used to the animation of the rider. The rider also positions his body for the upcoming corner automatically, so he prepares for it, makes it look more realistic, but it does feel kind of awkward when you're playing. There is a lot of unusual bike movement. It takes a bit of getting used to. I have to admit, I have found it to be one of the more difficult motorbike games that are out there. Now, there are multiple handling options. I started off by visiting the Silverstone racetrack, a track I know very well, and thought, well, let's just get used to the beginner model that we have here, the rookie model handling, riding around the circuit, and it's almost takes control itself. Everything is assisted: braking, acceleration, steering assists, everything's in there. So you're very lightly turning from side to side. The bike goes where you want it to. It's a bit like if you have, that younger sibling and they want to play on your game console and you give them a controller that's not plugged in and you say, look, there you go, you play it, and really you're the one playing it. It kind of feels like that. It feels like somebody else has the controller and you're just holding it and pressing the odd buttons to make things move around. So you quickly move on to the classic handling. It's probably where I had the most enjoyment when I was playing this game. And the classic handling obviously removes a lot of additional assists. I don't tend to like all the assists. I want the bike to feel loose. I want to feel like I'm in control of the bike. I have to admit, it is still very challenging. Then I moved to the expert handling, and again, it's very, very difficult, especially at chicanes, understanding how to control your bike. So where's the challenge is you can't just pick up the game hit the brakes, turn in. If you're not braking at the right point exactly for each corner, you'll fall off the bike. So consequently, even though I've played Silverstone a lot in the past, I was still not quite absolutely perfect with my braking, and therefore it would take a long time. It would probably take me 50 laps just to learn Silverstone, maybe more, because I find it very difficult, genuinely very difficult to play, and I struggled to get used to it. So when you're moving from track to track, running a preview like this, it just wasn't possible to string those laps together. The required learning to learn precisely where to brake, it just requires a skill level that is quite extreme. Now, sometimes it can feel frustrating, because I would say to myself, well, if I went to this track in real life, I wouldn't be racing on the limit and I wouldn't crash on every single corner. It's very hard to race slower. Again, I find when you oversteer, you try to back out a bit, something like that. If you go too slow into a corner, you have as much chance of crashing as if you go too fast. This is just one of those challenges with the MotoGP game. It is fine if you know the track and you're on rails on that particular racing line, and you know exactly how to play it. But if you're anywhere but that skill level, you're going to be struggling. So very challenging to play, but either way, the handling is very interesting. I like the way the rider moves, and you feel the weight of the bike flipping over from side to side when especially with direction changes. Really nice way in which the bike animates, and the sound, I just want to point out the sound is some of the best sound we've ever had in a MotoGP game, or frankly in a racing game. It's up there with some of the best audio you'll hear. Wow. When I look at where Milestone were with audio in 2014 and where they are now, 9 years, I know it's a long time, but they've really turned a corner in recent times, and the audio is fantastic. A shout out also to the replay cameras. The replay cameras throughout are excellent. Really nice replay cameras on the bikes, around the bikes. Really gives you a sense and feeling of being there. I like that. So in terms of the technical side of what Milestone are achieving right now, it is light years beyond where we were years ago. Top level stuff. The game also includes all of the usual options to put stickers on your bike and change your bike, and you have the standard MotoGP teams and factory teams, and there's lots of customization in there, so you can really customize it to your own feel. Basically, the game has lots to do, lots of features that you used to in the past, and the usual tidy package. The big question for me ultimately is going to be the handling. When I test the final game, I'm going to be looking at Moto 3 and Moto 2. In the past, I've often enjoyed playing Moto 2 more than the MotoGP sometimes, just because of the fluidity of the bikes, and I think that could be the case here as well. We'll wait and see when we get hold of the final build. But that's it for me on the MotoGP. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments. What part are you looking forward to playing? What aspects, just tell me a bit about your thoughts on seeing this video, what you'd like to see me testing. I will certainly come back on a future video and show you guys what it's all about. It's a busy time for bikers between this and Ironman TT and others on the way. It's always lots of bike games. It's good to see more investment going into the biking genre. I look forward to seeing where this goes in the next few weeks. But that's it from me for now. As ever, more soon.